She had been carrying his spare key for 3 months, waiting for the courage to use it. And when she finally did, everything changed. The afternoon sun was getting tired, casting long shadows across Alex's small apartment. He sat at his desk, squinting at the computer screen that had been his companion for the past 6 hours. Empty coffee cups stood like soldiers around his workspace, each one marking another failed attempt to finish this design project. The deadline was tomorrow, and he still wasn't happy with what he'd created. His apartment told the story of a man who had been living alone for 3 months now. Pizza boxes were stacked near the overflowing trash can. Clean clothes sat in a basket waiting to be folded since last weekend. The place felt hollow, like something important was missing. Alex rubbed his tired eyes and stretched his neck. Oh, silence in the apartment was heavy, broken only by the hum of his laptop and the distant sound of traffic outside. He had gotten used to this quiet, though he didn't particularly like it. It reminded him too much of how his life had changed. Just as he was about to grab another cup of coffee, he heard something that made him freeze. The soft click of a key turning in his front door lock. His heart jumped. Nobody had a key to his place anymore. At least nobody should have. The door opened slowly, and there she stood. Maya. His breath caught in his throat as he saw her standing in the doorway, holding 2 grocery bags and wearing jeans and a simple sweater that somehow made her look more beautiful than he remembered. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy bun, with a few loose strands framing her face. She was Lisa's younger sister. Lisa, his ex-girlfriend who had moved out 3 months ago, taking most of her things but apparently forgetting to ask for all the spare keys back. "Hey," Maya said softly, as if she hadn't just walked into his apartment uninvited. Her voice was warm, familiar, and it sent a strange flutter through his chest. Alex stared at her, completely confused. "Maya, what are you doing here?" She lifted the grocery bag slightly and smiled, that smile he remembered from family dinners and birthday parties. It was the kind of smile that made him feel like she knew something he didn't. "I brought stuff to make that chicken recipe you always said you wanted to try. You know, the one with herbs and lemon that you saw on that cooking show?" The bags dropped to the floor with a soft thud as she kicked the door closed behind her. She looked around his apartment, taking in the mess, the empty containers, the general chaos of his bachelor life. But she didn't look judgmental or surprised. She looked almost understanding. Alex stood up slowly, still trying to process what was happening. "But how did you know I'd be home? And the key?" "Lucky guess," she said, walking past him toward the kitchen area. "And Lisa forgot to ask for this back when she moved out." She pulled a small silver key from her pocket and placed it on his counter like it was the most natural thing in the world. He watched as she began unpacking the groceries. Fresh vegetables, real spices, ingredients he never bought for himself, because cooking for one person always felt pointless. She moved around his kitchen like she belonged there, opening cabinets she somehow remembered from months ago, finding his rarely used pots and pans. "Maya, I don't understand what's happening." "Here," Alex said, running his hand through his messy hair. "It's been 3 months since Lisa moved out." "I know." She didn't look at him as she spoke, focusing instead on washing the vegetables in his sink. "She's happy, by the way, really happy. Met someone at her office. A nice guy who wears suits and brings her flowers every Friday." There was something in her tone that Alex couldn't quite read. Not sadness exactly, but something deeper. He found himself studying her profile as she worked, noticing things he had tried not to notice during all those family gatherings over the past few years. That's good for her," he said finally, though he wasn't sure why the news made him feel relieved rather than sad. Maya turned to face him then, leaning against his counter with her arms crossed. "Is it weird that I'm here?" The question hung in the air between them. Alex looked into her eyes, those warm brown eyes that had always seemed to see right through him, and realized he didn't know how to answer. Yes, it was weird. But it also felt right in a way that scared him. A little, he admitted, but also, no, Not really. She smiled again, and this time it was different. Softer somehow, but also more intense. Good, because I've been wanting to do this for a while now. Do what? Cook for you. Take care of you a little bit. You always looked so tired at family dinners, like you were working too hard and not eating enough real food. She gestured toward his collection of takeout containers. Looks like I was right. Alex felt something warm spread through his chest. When was the last time someone had noticed that he was tired? When was the last time someone had cared enough to bring him groceries and offer to cook? You didn't have to do this, he said quietly. I know I didn't have to, Maya replied, turning back to her preparations. I wanted to. As she began chopping vegetables, Alex found himself really looking at her for the first time, not as Lisa's little sister, not as someone he had to be polite to at family events, but as Maya. Just Maya. The woman who had somehow noticed that he was struggling, who had kept a key to his apartment for 3 months, who had showed up on a random Tuesday afternoon with groceries and that knowing smile. The apartment didn't feel so quiet anymore. The smell of garlic and herbs filled Alex's apartment as Maya worked in his kitchen. He sat at his small dining table, watching her move with a confidence that surprised him. She knew where everything was, even things he had forgotten he owned. The good olive oil tucked behind the cereal boxes, the wooden cutting board he never used, even the nice plates his mother had given him when he first moved out. As she cooked, memories started flooding back to Alex. All those family dinners over the past 3 years. All those moments when he had tried so hard not to notice how Maya looked at him. How she always seemed to find excuses to talk to him when Lisa was busy with other people. How she remembered every little thing he mentioned, even casual comments about movies he wanted to see or books he was reading. Remember when you first started dating Lisa? Maya asked, not turning around from the stove. I was still in college then, just turned 20. Alex nodded, though she couldn't see him. You were studying psychology, right? Always carrying around those thick textbooks. You remember that? There was surprise in her voice and something else. Pleasure, maybe. I remember a lot of things, Alex said quietly, maybe more than I should have. Maya paused in her stirring. The kitchen went quiet except for the gentle bubbling of whatever she was making. Like what? Alex felt his heart speed up. This was dangerous territory. But something about the way she had walked into his apartment, the way she was taking care of him, made him feel brave. Like how you always sat across from me at dinner so we could talk about those mystery novels you loved. Like how you laughed at my terrible jokes when everyone else just rolled their eyes. Like how you always offered to help with dishes just so we could keep talking. She turned around then, wooden spoon still in her hand. Her cheeks were slightly pink, either from the heat of cooking or from his words. You noticed all that? It was hard not to notice you, Maya. You are different from your sister. The words hung in the air between them. Alex immediately wondered if he should have said that. But Maya didn't look upset. Instead, she looked thoughtful. Different how? She asked, moving closer to the table. Alex chose his words carefully. Lisa always knew exactly what she wanted. Her whole life planned out like a business presentation. Good job, nice apartment, marriage by 30, kids by 32. Everything organized and predictable. Maya sat down across from him, the same spot she always took during family dinners. And me? You were curious about everything, always asking questions that made me think. Always reading something interesting. You saw the world like it was full of possibilities, not just a checklist to complete. Alex paused, looking down at his hands. Lisa used to get frustrated with me for being too dreamy, too unfocused. But you seem to like that about me. Maya was quiet for a long moment. When Alex looked up, she was studying his face with those warm brown eyes. I did like that about you, she said softly. I still do. The timer in the kitchen went off, breaking the spell. Maya jumped up to check on the food, leaving Alex sitting at the table with his heart pounding. You know, she called from the kitchen, Lisa never really understood you. Even I could see that, and I was just the annoying little sister hanging around. You were never annoying. No? Maya laughed, but it didn't sound entirely happy. Lisa thought I was. Always said I asked too many questions, always wanted to be included in everything. She used to complain that I had a crush on her boyfriend, and it was embarrassing. Alex felt something cold settle in his stomach. She said that? Multiple times. Usually when she was frustrated about something else, but still. Maya came back to the table with 2 plates of the most delicious-looking chicken he had ever seen. She wasn't wrong, though. The admission hung between them like a challenge. Alex stared at Maya, trying to process what she had just said. Maya, I know it was wrong, she continued, sitting back down. You were with my sister, you were off limits, but I couldn't help how I felt. She picked up her fork but didn't start eating. Do you know what it's like watching someone you care about settle for something that doesn't make them happy? Settle, Alex repeated. Come on, Alex. Were you really happy with Lisa? I mean really happy. Because from where I was sitting, it looked like you were just going through the motions. Alex thought about the past 3 years with Lisa, the conversations that stayed on safe topics, the dates that followed predictable patterns, the way she used to check her phone during movies he picked, the way she dismissed his interests as impractical or silly. She's a good person, he said finally. I never said she wasn't. But being good doesn't mean being right for someone. Maya finally took a bite of her food, chewing thoughtfully. You know what I used to think during those family dinners? What? I used to think about how different you were when she wasn't around. More relaxed, more yourself. You'd tell stories about your work, get excited about projects, but the moment she came back, you'd sort of shrink back down. Alex remembered those moments too. The times when Maya would ask him about his latest design project and he'd find himself talking animatedly about color theory and typography. Lisa always seemed bored by those conversations, but Maya's eyes would light up with genuine interest. Why are you telling me this now? Alex asked. Maya met his gaze directly. Because she's moved on. Because you're here alone eating takeout and working too much. And because I kept this key for 3 months telling myself it was just in case of emergencies. She pulled the key from her pocket again, turning it over in her fingers. But really, I think I was just waiting for the courage to use it. The food was getting cold, but neither of them seemed to care. They sat across from each other at the small table, the weight of years of unspoken feelings finally settling between them. Dinner had turned into something Alex never expected. What started as a simple meal became a conversation that stretched deep into the evening. Maya had moved from the chair across from him to the spot next to him on his small couch, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something light and floral that made him think of spring mornings. They had been talking for hours about everything and nothing. Books they had both read, movies that made them cry, dreams they had never shared with anyone else. Alex found himself remembering why he had always looked forward to those family gatherings, even when things with Lisa were getting strained. I have something to tell you, Maya said suddenly, her voice quieter than before. She was holding a glass of wine that had been sitting untouched for the past 20 minutes, turning it slowly in her hands. Alex felt his stomach tighten. What is it? That night last year, after Lisa's birthday party. Do you remember walking me to my car? How could he forget? It was one of those moments that had haunted him for months afterward. Lisa had been tired and went to bed early, but the party was still going. Maya had stayed to help clean up, and when it was time for her to leave, Alex had walked her out to the parking lot. I remember, he said carefully. We stood there talking for almost an hour, about that book you had lent me, about your plans to maybe start your own design company someday. Maya looked down at her wine glass. About how sometimes life doesn't turn out the way you expect it to. Alex remembered that conversation too. How Maya had leaned against her car, looking up at him with those eyes that seemed to see straight into his soul. How the parking lot had been quiet except for the distant sound of music from the party inside. How close they had stood, close enough that he could have reached out and touched her face. I almost kissed you that night, Maya continued, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex's breath caught. Maya, I know it was wrong. You were with Lisa, but standing there in the parking lot talking to you like that, feeling like you actually saw me, not just as Lisa's little sister, but as me. I wanted to kiss you so badly it hurt. She finally looked up at him, and Alex could see the vulnerability in her eyes, the fear of putting herself out there like this. Do you want to know what stopped me? She asked. Alex nodded, not trusting his voice. You looked at me like you wanted to kiss me too, and that scared me more than anything. She set down her wine glass with shaking hands. Because if you had kissed me back, I don't think I could have pretended any more that what I felt was just a silly crush. The room felt impossibly small suddenly. Alex was aware of every detail, the way Maya's hair caught the light from his lamp, the way she was fidgeting with the hem of her sweater, the way his own heart was beating so loud he was sure she could hear it. Why are you telling me this now? He asked, his voice rougher than he intended. Maya turned to face him fully on the couch. Because I'm tired of pretending. Because I'm 24 years old and I've spent the last 4 years of my life comparing every guy I meet to you. Because I kept having to watch you with my sister, knowing you weren't really happy and I couldn't do anything about it. She took a shaky breath. And because 3 months ago, when Lisa moved out and you looked so lost at her goodbye party, I made myself a promise that if you ever needed someone, if you ever seemed ready to stop settling for safe and predictable, I would be brave enough to try. Alex stared at her, his mind racing. All those family dinners, all those moments when he had caught himself watching Maya laugh or seeing her eyes light up when she talked about something she cared about. All those times he had felt guilty for noticing how beautiful she was, how easy it was to talk to her, how much more alive he felt in her presence. Maya, this is complicated, he said finally. Lisa is your sister. Lisa is happy with someone else. Someone who fits into her perfect plan. Maya's voice was steady now, more confident. And you're here, alone, working yourself into the ground and eating nothing but takeout because you're too sad to cook for one person. She reached over and took his hand, her fingers warm and soft against his. I'm not asking you to love me back, Alex. I'm not asking for promises or declarations or anything complicated. I'm just asking you to stop pretending you don't feel something when you look at me. Alex looked down at their joined hands, then back up at Maya's face, the face he'd been trying not to really see for years, the face that had been in the back of his mind during quiet moments, during lonely evenings, during all those times when he felt like something was missing from his life. I do feel something, he admitted quietly. I've felt something for a long time, it just seemed impossible. Maya smiled then, that same knowing smile from earlier, but softer now, more hopeful. What if it's not impossible? What if it's just scary? Before Alex could overthink it, before he could list all the reasons why this was complicated and messy and potentially painful, he leaned toward her. Maya's eyes fluttered closed, and then their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff at the same time. It was gentle at first, tentative, like they were both afraid the other might pull away. But when Maya's free hand came up to cup his cheek, when she sighed softly against his mouth, Alex felt something inside him that had been tightly wound for years finally relax. When they finally broke apart, Maya rested her forehead against his, both of them breathing a little unsteadily. Now what? Alex whispered. Maya's smile was radiant. Now we figure it out together. Alex woke up the next morning to the smell of coffee and something that might have been pancakes. For a moment he thought he was dreaming. Then he heard Maya humming softly in his kitchen, and everything from the night before came rushing back. The dinner, the conversation, the kiss that had changed everything. He found her at his stove, wearing one of his old college sweatshirts over her clothes from yesterday. Her hair was pulled up in a messy knot, and she was flipping what looked like the most perfect pancakes he had ever seen. The morning light streaming through his kitchen window made everything look soft and golden. Good morning, she said without turning around, like she could sense him standing there. I hope you don't mind that I borrowed this. She tugged at the sweatshirt. I got cold during the night. Alex realized she had slept on his couch. He had offered her his bed, but she had insisted the couch was fine. Now he felt guilty about that, among other things. Maya, he started, running his hand through his messy hair. We should talk about last night. She turned around then, and he could see something guarded in her expression. Having second thoughts already? No. Maybe. I don't know. Alex sat down heavily at his small table. It's a lot to process. Maya turned off the stove and came to sit across from him. She looked tired, like maybe she hadn't slept much either. I know it is. Trust me, I've been processing it for years. But what about Lisa? What about your family? Alex felt the weight of reality settling on his shoulders. Maya, when Lisa finds out about this, she's going to hate both of us. Probably, Maya said quietly. Lisa doesn't handle surprises well, especially ones that involve people she cares about making choices she doesn't understand. Alex looked at Maya's face, searching for any sign that she was as worried about this as he was. Doesn't that scare you? Maya was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were sad but determined. It terrifies me. Lisa and we've always had a complicated relationship, but she's still my sister. The idea of her hating me makes me feel sick. Then maybe we should... But you know what scares me more? Maya interrupted. The idea of spending the rest of my life wondering what could have been. The idea of watching you be alone and miserable because you're too afraid to take a chance on something real. Alex felt something twist in his chest. You think what we have could be real? Maya reached across the table and took his hand. I think what we have has been real for years. We just weren't allowed to explore it before. The pancakes were getting cold, but neither of them seemed to care. Alex stared at their joined hands, thinking about everything that had led them to this moment. The years of careful distance, the stolen glances, the conversations that went deeper than they should have. I called in sick to work today, Maya said suddenly. Alex looked up, surprised. You did? I figured we needed time to talk about this properly, without rushing, without feeling like we have to make huge decisions right away. She squeezed his and I also figured you might need a friend today, regardless of what happens between us. The kindness in her voice made Alex's throat tight. When was the last time someone had cared about what he needed? When was the last time someone had been willing to miss work just to make sure he was okay? Maya, I don't want to hurt you, he said quietly. I know you don't, and I don't want to hurt you either. But Alex, we're going to hurt each other sometimes. That's what happens when you care about someone. She smiled, but it was tinged with sadness. The question is whether the good parts are worth the risk. Alex thought about the night before, how natural it had felt to talk to Maya for hours, how right it had felt when she kissed him, how peaceful he had slept knowing she was just in the next room. What would this even look like, he asked. If we tried this, I mean. Maya's face lit up slightly. I don't know. We'd figure it out as we go, I guess. Take things slow, be honest with each other. Try not to let fear make all our decisions. For us. And Lisa? Maya's expression grew serious again. We'd tell her when we're ready, when we know for sure that this is something worth fighting for. She deserves honesty, but she also doesn't get to dictate our lives. Alex was quiet for a long moment, thinking about his ex-girlfriend. Lisa had been a good girlfriend in many ways. Responsible, reliable, predictable. But she had also been controlling without meaning to be. She had opinions about his career choices, his friends, how he spent his free time. She had made him feel like his dreams were impractical and his interests were silly. Maya had never made him feel that way. Even as just a friend, she had encouraged his creativity, asked thoughtful questions about his work, supported his ideas even when they seemed far-fetched. Can I ask you something? Alex said. Anything. Why me? I mean, you're beautiful and smart and kind. You could have anyone you want. Why waste time on your sister's complicated ex-boyfriend? Maya laughed, but it was soft and genuine. You really don't know, do you? Know what? How you light up when you talk about something you're passionate about. How you remember little details about people that matter to them. How you make everyone around you feel heard and valued. Maya's voice grew softer. How you look at the world like it's full of magic, even when you're tired and stressed and overwhelmed. Alex felt his cheeks grow warm. Maya, Lisa used to complain that you were too dreamy, too impractical. But those are some of my favorite things about you. You see possibilities where other people see problems. You believe in beauty and creativity and hope even when life gets hard. She paused, studying his face. The night I almost kissed you in the parking lot, you had just told me about this design project you were working on for a children's hospital. The way your whole face changed when you talked about making something that would bring joy to sick kids. That's when I knew I was in real trouble. Alex remembered that project. It had been one of his favorites, even though it hadn't paid much. Lisa had questioned why he was spending so much time on something that wouldn't advance his career. You paid attention to that? He asked. I pay attention to everything about you, Alex. I have for years. Maya smiled. The question is, are you ready to let someone pay attention? Are you ready to stop hiding the parts of yourself that make you different? Looking at Maya across his small kitchen table, with the morning sun making her eyes glow and his old sweatshirt making her look like she belonged in his life, Alex felt something shift inside him. Something that had been tightly closed for years began to open. Yeah, he said quietly, I think I am. 3 weeks had passed since that morning in Alex's kitchen, and they had been the best 3 weeks of his life. Maya had been right about taking things slow. They spent their evenings talking, cooking together, watching movies that Lisa had always dismissed as boring. They went for long walks in the park, visited art galleries, spent lazy Sunday mornings reading different books on the same couch. Alex had forgotten how good it felt to share his days with someone who genuinely wanted to hear about them. Maya asked about his design projects with real interest, offered thoughtful suggestions, celebrated his small victories like they were major achievements. In return, he listened to her stories from work, her dreams of maybe going back to school, someday her worries about helping families navigate difficult situations. But underneath all the happiness was a growing weight. They hadn't told anyone about their relationship yet. Maya had been putting off family dinners, making excuses about being busy with work. Alex had been avoiding mutual friends who might ask awkward questions. They were living in a bubble that felt perfect, but couldn't last forever. The bubble burst on a Tuesday evening when Alex's phone rang while they were making dinner together. Lisa's name appeared on the screen, and both of them froze. Don't answer it, Maya said quickly, but Alex was already reaching for the phone. I should, he said. She never calls unless something's wrong. Maya turned back to the stove, but Alex could see the tension in her shoulders as he answered. Hey, Lisa, what's up? Alex, hi. Sorry to bother you, but I'm looking for Maya. She's not answering her phone, and Mom's been trying to reach her about this weekend's family dinner. You haven't seen her around, have you? Alex looked at Maya, who was very pointedly not looking back at him. Why would I have seen her? I don't know, she's been acting weird lately, distant, and she mentioned your name a couple times recently, which seemed odd. There was a pause. You two didn't start hanging out after I moved out, did you? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Alex felt his heart racing. This was it. The moment when they either lied or changed everything. Maya turned around, then, and looked directly at him. Her expression was calm but determined, and she gave him a small nod. Actually, Lisa, we need to talk. All three of us, Alex said before he could lose his nerve. There was silence on the other end of the line. What do you mean, all three of us? Can you come over? Tonight? There's something we need to tell you. Another long pause. Alex, you're scaring me. What's going on? Maya walked over and gently took the phone from his hand. Hi, Lisa, it's me. Alex heard Lisa's sharp intake of breath through the speaker. Maya, what are you doing at Alex's place? We're together, Maya said simply. Alex and I. We have feelings for each other, and we're exploring what that means. The silence that followed was deafening. Alex could practically hear Lisa processing this information, and he knew it wasn't going well. Together? Lisa's voice was tight with disbelief. As in, romantically together? Yes. How long? Maya glanced at Alex. 3 weeks officially, but longer than that if we're being completely honest. Longer than that? Lisa's voice was rising now. Maya, what are you talking about? Longer than what? Alex took the phone back. Lisa, please just come over. Let us explain in person. You deserve that. I deserve that? I deserve to find out that my sister and my ex-boyfriend have been carrying on behind my back. It wasn't behind your back, Alex said firmly. Nothing happened while we were together. Nothing physical anyway. But I can't lie and say there weren't feelings. The line went quiet for so long that Alex thought she might have hung up. Finally, Lisa's voice came through, cold and controlled. I'll be there in 20 minutes, and this better be one hell of an explanation. She hung up, leaving Alex and Maya staring at each other in his kitchen. Well, Maya said, trying to sound lighter than she clearly felt. That went about as well as expected. Alex pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. Are you okay? Ask me in an hour, she said against his chest. Those 20 minutes felt like the longest of Alex's life. Maya cleaned up the kitchen while he paced around his living room, both of them too nervous to eat. When the knock finally came, they looked at each other one more time. Whatever happens, Maya said, I'm glad we tried. Alex opened the door to find Lisa standing there in her work clothes, looking more upset than he had ever seen her. Her usually perfect hair was disheveled, like she had been running her hands through it, and her eyes were red-rimmed. Hi, he said awkwardly. She walked past him without a word and stopped short when she saw Maya sitting on the couch. For a moment, the sisters just stared at each other. So it's true, Lisa said finally. You're really doing this. Maya stood up slowly. Lisa, please sit down. Let us explain. Explain what? How you decided to go after my ex-boyfriend the minute I was out of the picture. How you've probably been planning this for months. It wasn't like that, Alex said firmly. Maya never did anything inappropriate while we were together. Never even hinted at having feelings for me. But she did have feelings for you. It wasn't a question. Maya lifted her chin slightly. Yes, I did. For a long time. Lisa laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. This is unbelievable. My own sister. Lisa, please, Maya said, taking a step forward. I know this is hard to understand, but hard to understand? Maya, you were supposed to be my friend, my family, and instead you were just waiting for your chance. The accusation hung heavy in the room. Alex saw Maya flinch like she'd been slapped. That's not fair, he said. Maya never acted on her feelings. She never tried to come between us. She was nothing but supportive of our relationship, even when it was probably painful for her. Lisa turned to him with blazing eyes. Don't you dare defend her to me, and don't pretend this is some noble love story. You're both being selfish. You're right, Maya said quietly, and both Alex and Lisa turned to look at her in surprise. I am being selfish. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I want, instead of what everyone else expects from me. Maya's voice grew stronger as she continued. I spent 4 years watching you be with someone who didn't appreciate you. 4 years listening to you complain about how dreamy and impractical he was, how he didn't fit into your plans. And now you're angry because I see those same qualities as wonderful? Lisa's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. I love him, Lisa. I love his creativity and his kindness and his ridiculous optimism about the world. I love how he makes me feel like I'm worth listening to, worth caring about. And I'm tired of apologizing for that. Alex felt his heart swell with pride and love and amazement at Maya's courage. Lisa was quiet for a long moment, her anger seeming to deflate into something sadder and more complicated. But he was mine first, she said finally, and she sounded very young. No, Maya said gently. He was with you first. But Lisa, He was never really yours. Just like I was never really the perfect little sister you wanted me to be. The room fell silent. Alex watched the two sisters look at each other, years of complicated history passing between them. Finally, Lisa sat down heavily in Alex's armchair. I don't know how to be okay with this, she admitted. I don't need you to be okay with it right away, Maya said, sitting back down on the couch. But maybe someday you could try to understand it. Lisa looked at Alex for the first time since she'd arrived. Are you happy? The question surprised him. Yes. Happier than I've been in a long time. And you're sure about this? About her? Alex looked at Maya, sitting brave and beautiful on his couch, having just risked everything for the chance at something real. I'm sure. Lisa nodded slowly, tears finally spilling over. I guess that's something, at least. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. And sometimes Alex thought beginnings were enough.